Happy draft day. It is finally here. The night we've been waiting for. The NFL draft will kick off in less than an hour. And we, here on the Let's Debate podcast, are going to bring you up to the start of the NFL draft. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and we want you guys to interact with us as well. My name is Nick Delahanty. I would like to bring in my co host, Kyle Delahanty. Kyle, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm excited. This is an exciting day. Um, tonight's the NFL draft, obviously, like Nick said, in about an hour. That's always a special day for football fans, but I think there's something a little bit more special about this year with everything going on with the COVID-19. We had sports have been paused. We haven't seen really anything, so I would say this is arguably the biggest, if not the only, live sporting event we've seen in the past month or so. So I'm excited. Last week, Nick and I discussed, well, we didn't really discuss, but we put together a mini mock draft of what we think is going to happen. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, head over to our website. It's going to be coming across in the banner, anchor.fm/let's debate. That'll lead you to watch us on Facebook Live or on YouTube. You can check out the audio on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Breaker, anything that will help you out to listen to us. But Nick, you want to jump into what this episode's about?
Oh, absolutely. So basically, we decided not to go with a script tonight because our goal is to kind of keep you updated as to what was going on leading up to the draft. So we're going to keep a tab on some of the biggest NFL writers and kind of just go with the flow a little bit. We're going to cover, obviously, the Jets and the Giants. They're two big players in this draft. A lot can go on with these two teams. As you can see, Kyle and myself both have Sam Darnold jerseys on, one of a different color. By the end of the night, if the Jets do mess this pick up, as we're both expecting them to, the jersey might be thrown against the wall. But we're hoping for the best, and we're going to get into what we think the Jets and the Giants are going to do tonight, and we're going to look at some of the key topics that do go on in regards to this draft. Again, follow us on Facebook by searching up Let's Debate Podcast, and also find us on Twitter at Let's Debate Pod. Now, let's get right into it. All right. Giants are sitting at 4 right now. And of course, there are 3 big dominoes that are supposed to happen before. You can assume, as it was just reported, that the Bengals are making the pick and will take Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And you can assume, unless something crazy happens over the next hour plus, that the Redskins are going to sit tight at 2 and they're going to go with Chase Young. So that leaves 2 picks before the Giants are up. And that's an interesting little bit of a dilemma because Detroit's a part where that might be a trade spot. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the draft stays the way it is. And let's just throw a name in there. Jeff Okudah's been linked to the Detroit Lions. What do the Giants do at 4?
So, I mean, I'm not a Giants fan, so I haven't followed them as much as I do the Jets. But we do know they're in a very similar situation as the Jets. They have a lot of team needs. Obviously, being in the 4th spot in the draft, they're in a nice position to get one of those top prospects, no matter what position they're looking at. A lot of the talk and a lot of the speculation has been that they're either leaning towards one of the linemen. So that could be either Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, Wills, or Mekhi Becton. But then there's another guy in Isaiah Simmons that has been getting hyped up a lot as well. I don't think they could go wrong with either pick as long as they pick the right guy. And I mean, obviously, it's easily said, but and I mean that more for the linemen. You could go with offensive linemen, but if you take the wrong guy, it's not really going to help you. They do need to protect their quarterback, Daniel Jones, and their running back, Saquon Barkley. But their defense is one of the worst in the league. They need to start beefing up that defense because they give up so many points. So, no, I personally would go Isaiah Simmons, get some help on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's not out of the ordinary for Dave Gettleman to do because he does like those sexy, splashy picks, those big athletic guys, or just athletic guys in general. He took Cam Newton back in 2011 with the Panthers. He took Christian McCaffrey with the Panthers, came to the Giants. He took Saquon, and then he took Daniel Jones last year. Now he's going defense, but it's still that sexy, splashy pick, and Simmons is one of the best defensive players in this draft. But they can't go wrong taking an offensive lineman either. So very tough decision, and Gettleman's got a tough decision to make.
The thing that kind of scares me about Simmons is that evaluators and scouts don't know where this guy is going to end up playing.
Yeah.
They say he could translate as an edge rusher. He could translate as a safety. A lot of scouts that I've been reading about, especially today, have said that he probably translates as a safety in the NFL. And now we see the impact Jamal Adams has on the game. So when you have a guy like that can play multiple spots, you really don't care what you classify him as.
Yeah.
As long as you could find a way to use him, that's the key. And if
Exactly.
you don't think you could find a way to utilize him properly, I think you have to go offensive line. You mentioned Jones and you mentioned Barkley. It kills me, and I'm as a Jets fan, it kills me that Barkley has played the last 2 years and has done what he's done without no offensive line. Like, yeah, one offensive lineman doesn't change things, but it does help. And I think that if you're sitting at 4, unless Chase Young falls somehow, I think that Gettleman's going to elect to go with the non-sexy pick in this case. He's going to go lineman, and it might shock people. It might disappoint people. And I like Simmons as a playmaker. I think that he could be a really nice fit. But offensive line, and you could have your pick of them. And like you said, you got to pick the right one because if
Yeah.
you pick the wrong one, Jones and Barkley are going to be on their backs anyway. So
Right.
I don't think you could go wrong either way, but you got to make sure you make that right pick.
Right. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was taking a look at the depth chart. We talk about these 4 top linemen, but I feel like in a way, and I'm not saying that they won't do this. Obviously, I'm not the GM, but when you do take a look at their depth chart, Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton don't really fit their team right now. Their primary position is the left tackle position. You have Nate Solder. So how does that work? That's why I feel like if they're going to go offensive line, it's going to be between Wirfs and Wills because those are guys who have played both tackle positions. You could bring one of them in, play right tackle for now, and then if Solder's contract's up and you want to get rid of him and you want to move someone over, those guys could fill that spot, or you keep him at right tackle. So that's something I really haven't heard much, but doing my own research, something I picked up on, I just feel it's got to be between those 2 guys. But yeah, I mean, you made good points about Isaiah Simmons. He could play both positions. At the same time, there's a lot of positives to that as well. But now my question for you is, do you think there's a strong chance they trade back? And what's it going to take for them to trade back? How far back do you go? What do you look for with additional picks?
Honestly, and we got a comment from JR Donalo too. He says to trade down and get more picks. That's a Giants fan talking here. So, but again, you're sitting down, and if you have an opportunity to trade down, if I'm the Giants and I'm not convinced that one of those linemen are the key guy that I need to get, and I think that I can move back a couple of picks to get a guy that I like, I would do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't go farther than 9. I think that 9 is the spot where I wouldn't go farther than. That's just me in terms of looking at the draft board in different scenarios like that. If you stay at 9, there's still a strong possibility that not only Simmons, but at least 1 or 2 of those linemen are still going to be there, and you're still going to have your pick as to which one. You could probably get a couple more picks to even up the number base, the system base that they have that kind of evaluates the picks. But if there's an opportunity to trade down and you could get a haul for that pick, I'm lucky those guys. I would definitely pull the trigger.
Yeah, and JR made another good point right there that there are Bama connections. And Wills obviously is that guy, and it's like I just said, he fits because he could play both tackle positions. So, and personally, I like to try to like envision things a little bit, and I could kind of see Wills being picked by the Giants and where they show the guy kind of just flipping the football and looking at the camera. I could kind of see that. So, in that case, yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't go further than the 10th pick for the Giants unless you're getting a haul of really good picks. You're boosting your draft capital. But yeah.
Yeah, the only way I would really go lower is if you get the 2 secondary picks from Miami. I don't think they're going to give you 5, but
Yeah.
if you could get the 2 lower picks from them somehow, some way, I think if they're desperate to move up again and get the quarterback and get a lineman, I would entertain it. It doesn't hurt to have extra picks and move down. But the Giants are a really interesting team because they could go many different ways, and it all depends on what happens before them.
Oh, yeah. And I think by moving back, even to 9, let's say what I just said isn't true. Let's say they are looking at Thomas and they are looking at Mekhi Becton. You can move back and grab any of those with the additional picks. So I don't think it's a bad idea. My personal opinion is that the Giants stay put, though. I think at the end of the day, they're going to stay put. I see there's I feel there's more likely of a scenario where someone jumps to the Lions spot at 3, right above them or right before them, and maybe jump up to grab a quarterback. But with everything going on right now, all the speculation, every team in the NFL right now has been talking about possibly trading up. So it's really hard to get a good idea of what you think a team's going to do.
Oh yeah, and now let's shift gears a little bit. And Jr. brings up a good point. He's waiting for me to just explode on the Jets. He knows how I'm thinking today. Uh, how badly are the Jets going to mess up this pick at number 11? And now we've talked about it for months about what's going on with the Jets. And here's my thoughts on the Jets. There's only one way they can mess this up, and the only way they can mess this up is if they decide to settle for the third or fourth best offensive lineman and avoid taking one of those star receivers. Now, before we came on the air, myself and you talked about the last time the New York Jets took a wide receiver in the first round of the draft. And you have to date back to 2001. We're in 2020. That was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
The last time they took a skill player, and I mean tight end or running back, wide receiver, in the first round was 2008. It's like the Jets don't want us to have weapons. And now I get it. You have to build from the offensive line. I totally get that. But Joe Douglas's whole offseason approach was to kind of just add bodies. He wasn't willing to overpay for the superstars on the market. He wasn't willing to get the top guys. He didn't go a dollar more than he wanted to. But he got guys that he did overpay for,
Yeah.
and won't admit it. And Kyle made me say this line, and I said it the other day. I don't even know why I said it. You can't fix a broken pipe with tape. And that's what they were trying to do with the offensive line. If you draft an offensive lineman tonight and it's not the best guy on the board, you still got at least 3 holes in that offensive line. If they're sitting there at 11 and the third best offensive lineman's there and the top receiver's there, take the receiver. Please, we need a weapon. I need, for my sanity, the Jets to not mess up this pick tonight.
Yeah, odds are they are going to. But yeah, Nick mentioned how you can't fix a pipe with tape, and he told me that the other day, and I was like, wow, nothing describes the Jets better than that, So I was like, just make sure you say that again tonight. But yeah, the Jets, they're definitely, I'm going to say they're 95% going with the offensive lineman here. And I understand, like, we do need to continue to improve the offensive line to protect Sam Darnold, because nothing happens if your quarterback goes unprotected. But this has been my take on it since the start of the offseason. My ideal offseason for the Jets would have been to spend a little bit more money on the offensive line, bring in top-tier talent. You're not going to fix an offensive line, or a team for that matter, in an offseason. We're not looking for you to do that. But if you bring in some key guys who are going to be productive for the next few years, then we could have addressed the wide receiver position and brought in one of these stud receivers. So now you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But instead, the typical Jets approach was they brought in guys who were lower tier guys. They overpaid on guys who were a small improvement than what we had last year. And I think we re-signed like 2 of our guys from last year. So now they find themselves trying to fix the offensive line and still having to do that in the draft. I mean, they just don't do things the right way. I just feel like they don't care. They look at team needs and filling those needs as, yeah, we physically put someone in that position. We didn't improve the position. We didn't bring in someone who's going to improve the team. So I understand they might go offensive line, but I'm begging them, just please take a receiver. Like, please take CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, because we need a playmaker. We have Le'Veon Bell, but you don't utilize him the right way. And knowing Gase's relationship with him, I'm not even sure Le'Veon Bell is going to be on the team by next year. So, and I also don't really know with what one lineman, what one 22-year-old unproven rookie is going to do to improve this team next year. That's not going to add 2 wins to our record. But bringing in a guy who could maybe put 7-8 touchdowns on the board, maybe 800 receiving yards in his rookie year, will improve that. And it gives Sam Darnold his first legitimate weapon of his career. And they're young. They're both 21, 22 years old. They're going to build chemistry over the years. So just please take a line. No, don't do that. Please take a wide receiver.
See, the thing that I heard all day is that there was talk that the Jets wanted to not only look to trade up, but they wanted to look to trade down. Now, trading up to me would be the dumbest, and I mean dumbest thing that they can do. Why would you give up more picks to move up to get a lineman? That makes no sense to me. Trading down to get a lineman doesn't make any sense to me. Now, the other thing that will drive me insane is if they somehow trade Jamal Adams tonight. And knowing the Jets, they might be sitting there at 11 and make their pick, and they might be done and say, wow, there's somebody on the board we still like. Let's trade Jamal to Dallas and get the 17th pick. And then we're all going to go tart, and Jet fans are going to be rioting. They're going to be burning down MetLife Stadium because, everybody's going to be crazy. It's just going to be a bad situation. I just don't feel like they have a pattern of how to win. I think that's the issue. Like, how many years they go defense round one? By the amount of defensive players we've seen them draft, they should have an all-pro defense. They don't.
Yeah.
They really don't. And yeah, the offensive line and wide receiver class are deep, but why not get that top receiver for a change? Why not take a gamble on a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy and tell Darnold, you know what? We added some guys to the line. Yeah, they're not the greatest, but we're going to hope that they could do something. And just give them a weapon to look for. Like, who is this dude looking for to throw the ball to? Like, Crowder, yeah, you can make your case Crowder's good. Anunua, who knows if he'll ever play again? And Brashad Perryman, who they signed, like, what has he proven besides 5 good games last year? There is a lot of uncertainty, and let's be real, Ryan Griffin's not a pass catcher. And the tight end, Herndon, you can't even keep him on the field. Get me a receiver. That's all I'm asking. I know that I should use reverse psychology because what I tell them to do, they'll do the complete opposite. So I should say they should get a lineman. But please don't settle on Mekhi Becton because we all know how it's going to play out. The top 3 receivers are going to be off the board, and either Jeudy or Lamb are going to get taken either 9 or 10. And we're going to be sitting there at 11, and both are going to be on the board. And we're all going to be calling for Jerry Jeudy or Lamb, and they're going to take Mekhi Becton, who doesn't like to play football.
He likes to cook more, if people haven't read that story yet. But, no, I mean, Nick made a lot of good points. It starts from the top, right? You have an owner in the Johnsons who they just don't know anything about football, first of all. They also don't care about actually improving the team. They just care about getting fans in the seats. And it sounds like we're ranting about the Jets right now, but we are. Like, we are doing that. I mean, this is the platform to do it right now. And the draft is go on YouTube, search up, New York Jets fans during draft day, anything like that. And you're going to see there's just a history of disappointment when it comes to the draft. But when we signed Joe Douglas to be our GM, I felt pretty confident in that because he does have a good track record. But what he's done thus far, I'm not impressed by, and it kind of scares me. And I guess to not really shed some light, but like add some positives to this. What if Joe Douglas actually nails this draft pick? That's going to change our whole entire mentality and mindset about this, because then we might be looking forward to the future and saying, well, maybe he has an idea. Maybe he's getting things going right now. And I noticed a comment by JR again. He said both O-line positions and wide receivers are deep in this draft. And I agree with that. We know that there's a top 4 linemen that are expected to go very high in this draft. And the wide receivers are deep as well. And yes, the Jets approach, I feel like the safest approach and what you keep hearing is, yes, go offensive line with the 11th pick and wait till one of those receivers, not the top end guys, but the bottom half of the guys fall into the second round. Now, I could sound very spiteful by saying this, but I think because the Jets approached the offseason the way they did and they didn't go after those top linemen, they still filled those spots. So in that case, to me, it's like, you know what? You worried about that already. That's done with. You screwed up that opportunity. Go after the real talent in a wide receiver position. I don't want to settle because the Jets have always settled. We could go get one of the best receivers in the draft, but instead we'll say, nah, but the other guys will be there. So yeah, let's go grab the secondary guy. Yeah. I just want a playmaker.
I'm going to make a bold statement, and I'm going to keep this audio for a long time. The wide receiver class in this draft is very, and I repeat, very highly overrated. After those top 3 guys, well, Jeudy and Lamb, there's a big drop between Lamb and Ruggs. And there's a big drop between Ruggs and what's behind him. and we talked about this guy before the show. Michael Pittman is one of the most highly overrated players that they talked about. And they link him to the Jets because why? A USC connection with not Sanchez, with Sam Darnold. I'm thinking Sanchez. I'm getting flashbacks
We're
here.
talking too much Jets draft bust. That's
Yeah,
Sanchez
exactly.
crosses your mind.
And you're sitting there, and there are a couple of guys I like in this draft, like receiver wise. I like Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame. I think he'll be all right. I like Devin Duvernay. I'm a Longhorn fan, but I think yard after catch guy, and in a Jets situation where they need somebody who could run, especially when they get the ball in short situations, because obviously we don't throw the ball down the field. It's a situation where I don't want to settle for the second or third round talent when we could have one of those guys like you said that fall into our laps or right there.
Yeah. And you look at some of the offensive talent, the skilled positions in the past few years, and you look at some of these guys, you're like, we could have had him. We could have had him, but we passed on someone else. So, and I wouldn't say this has been my approach to the draft every single year, but going best player available sometimes is the smart approach because, yes, you're filling team needs, but what if that guy is really not what you're expecting him to be? Go with the guy that you're saying there for sure. That guy is going to be good regardless. You know what? Offensive line might be a team need right now, but we could address that possibly next offseason. Yes, we go through a whole nother season of Darnold not getting the greatest of protection, but we could address that next season. So a guy like Lamb or Judy might not come around that often, so you got to go and get your guy. And if Kurt Valenti is listening right now, we were on his show last night. He mentioned that at the end of his show, he mentioned go get your guy. Do what you have to do to go get that guy because you're not going to regret it. And he used a great example. He said the Chiefs traded a lot to jump up for Pat Mahomes, and at the time, people were saying they were crazy. They traded a bunch of picks. Looking back on it now, the Chiefs would trade 8 picks again for Patrick Mahomes in a heartbeat. And I know Patrick Mahomes isn't CeeDee Lamb and vice versa. But still, if you feel a guy is there, go get him. Forget the team need at the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they got their guy. He had time to groom under Alex Smith, and you go from there. The thing that scares me about the best available player approach is this. The Jets' best available player ends up being a defensive lineman.
Well, yeah.
Always. Regardless of who's on the board, you could have Randy Moss, you could have Tom Brady, you could have Steve Young, Joe Montana, Lawrence Taylor, you name it, they would find a defensive lineman that is overhyped. Last year, what did they do? And I know, and I can't say that because it was different management, but who did they take? Quinnen Williams. And what did Quinnen Williams do this year? Nothing. What about the last time they took a defensive lineman? Leonard Williams. Where's he? With the Giants.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work out all the time, that best available player. Best available player by need, wide receiver would be the best one, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I haven't always thought about that because they took best player available with Leonard Williams. And I was upset with that pick because at the time we had Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson and typical Jets draft picks. Where are they? But at the time, they were good. Like Muhammad Wilkerson was one of the better. He was a good defensive lineman. And Sheldon Richardson was coming off like 2 years prior, defensive rookie of the year. So they were talented players. I wanted to go in a different direction in that draft. But yeah, overall, I think Giants go either offensive lineman or Simmons. I don't think they trade back. And for the Jets, I think they sit tight. I'm going to say 95. I'm 95% sure that they're going to go offensive lineman. I'm hoping they don't. I'm hoping they go Lamb or Judy. But if they're going to go offensive lineman, I either want Andrew Thomas or Tristan Wirfs. The other two, Wills and Becton, I just feel like Wills didn't have a good Wonderlic test. He really didn't. He didn't impress me when I watched an interview him the other day. And Becton has the red flags with the drug test, and they say he's really not that committed. He's more interested in cooking and things like that. I mean, that's a typical Jets draft pick, but overall, I'm hoping Lamb or Judy for them.
And it's not a slap in the face to say like, he's more interested in other things because people do have other interests. Like it's a job, but the thing that has to concern you is this: when he gets drafted and gets that paycheck, does he check out?
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have that love and that passion for it, that's a big red flag for me. And like you said, I think the Giants, first of all, I think that Giant fans aren't going to be happy whichever way they go. I think that people are going to be like, oh, why'd they go this way? They could have went Simmons or vice versa. I think they go lineman. I think Gettleman's going to go say, you know what? I don't really know where I'm going to play Simmons. I got Peppers. things like that. I think they're going to go linemen. And I think the Jets are in the same way. My ideal situation, all 4 linemen go before them, and they're forced to take a receiver.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jabril Peppers. Shout out Jabril Peppers, local kid playing in the New York Giants right now. Bright future ahead of him. I think we all knew that 8 years ago when he was in high school. But now, since we wrapped up Jets Giants talk, me and Nick wanted to move into some rapid fire questions and really just cover the draft in general. So I guess I'll kick that off. I have a question for
Sure.
Nick. I guess we could both answer the questions unless you want to alternate. I'll ask a question, you ask a question.
We could do that. And we'll both answer the question, and then the next person will ask the next question. How's that?
Okay. All right, so I'll start it off. First question. How many quarterbacks do you think go in the first round, and which ones? You don't have to say what team they go to, but the number of quarterbacks and which ones.
I'm going to say 4, and I'll give you the order. I don't know what teams, but I'm going to give you order.
Okay.
You're going to go Burrow, which they already announced. He'll be number 1.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Herbert too. I don't know. I think Tua, and you've been saying it for a while. You think Tua's going to slide. I think Tua's going to slide. There's a very good chance of that. Tua he'll be the 3rd one off the board, and I think that people are saying Jordan Love's going to go within that 10 to 20 range. I think he's going to fall into to that later part of the draft, and I don't think that New Orleans is going to take him. I think either New England or Green Bay takes him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's going to be 4. Don't have a specific order. I probably the similar order to what you just said: Burrow, Herbert, Tua, and Love. I'll get into where I think they might go in a little bit, but I do think those 4 are going to happen. You want to hit me with a question now?
Yeah. How many receivers go in round 1? This could be interesting because there could be a couple that slide toward the end of the round.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say 5. I think it's Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, Jefferson from LSU. And the last one's up for grabs. I'm just going to throw out Denzel Mims from Baylor. I do think there's another kid in there that could, but I'm just going to go Mims. I think he has good size, and I feel like his draft stock has been rising. And a team late like that who has a quarterback and has an established team, and it could be a team need of theirs, it's not a bad pick to take late in the first round.
I'm going to say 4, and I'm going to go with the first 4: Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, and Jackson, or
Jefferson.
the kid from LSU, Jefferson.
Yeah, Jefferson.
I'm like drawing blanks here. I think those 4. I just think that so many teams know it's a deep draft for receivers. They're going to wait. They're not going to trade up, especially if you have those teams in the early part of the second round. They're going to wait. I don't want to say for the scraps, but they're going to wait, especially because of the depth of it. So I'm going to say 4. I think it's going to shock a lot of people. I think we're going to see a lot of defensive players toward the second half of the draft, of the first round.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely possible. I would say I'm confident that 4 get chosen.
Yeah.
Right through to 5th, because you never know.
The 5th's a little bit of a wild card, but it could happen, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Patriots took Henry with like the 32nd pick last year in the first round. So that's what I'm saying. Those late round first picks, a lot of those teams don't stay put. A lot of other teams trade back into the first round, and they take a guy you never even heard of sometimes. So you never know what could happen later first round. All right, so next question. What team do you think is most likely to trade up?
That's a good one.
One team.
I'm gonna give a little bit of a wild card. I'm gonna say Atlanta. I think Atlanta's gonna try to trade up at least to 10, because there's been a lot of talk they've been aggressive in trying to trade up, but I don't think they go as far as 2, obviously, because Washington's not gonna give the pick. But I think that they're a team that can move up. They're looking defensive side of the ball. We know how loaded their offense is. Maybe a C.J. Henderson or one of the defensive tackles falls. I could see them going up to get one of those guys to help beef up the defense a little bit, especially with the way the division's kind of stacking up.
Oh, yeah. And it's not even draft season. You could call it rumor season at this point. There were even rumors last night circling around that Atlanta was trying to trade up to number 2 to get Chase Young. That's not going to happen. But,
No way.
They are rumored to trade up at some point. Could be a guy for like Javon Kinlaw, Derek Brown, C.J. Henderson, maybe even Jeff Okudah. Let's say they throw it all out there for their cornerback. I don't think that'll happen, but Atlanta's a good team to possibly trade up. I think the team most likely to trade up is going to be, if I had to pick one, I'm just going to stick with what I said originally. I don't know if this really happens, but I'm going to go the Los Angeles Chargers. Just in case if they love one of those quarterbacks, like let's say you love Justin Herbert and you're not that high on Tua, you have to make that jump. You have to make sure you get him. And they'll do probably whatever it takes to do that. So in that scenario, I think if LA loves one and doesn't like the other, then I think they're most likely to trade up.
So who's your most likely team to trade down?
I think in that scenario, it would be Detroit because they would be trading with LA. LA would be moving up. Detroit would be moving back. And I think Detroit would move back because the rumors the entire offseason had been that they love Jeff Okuda. And yeah, I mean, I think that would be most likely to trade down.
And there's Kurt. We mentioned you before, Kurt. We were saying you were trying to get your wide receiver. Go get that guy to help your quarterback. It looks like the Broncos want to help Locke. We don't think the Jets are in that same predicament with Darnold. I don't think they really care if he has some receiver help. They're trying to get him some offensive linemen. In terms of the moving down, I was torn between two teams. I could see Jacksonville moving down, but I'm going to go with the Browns. I
Okay.
just think that they're going to be in that kind of island type of area where they don't know what to do, and they're going to see a guy that they could get a couple of picks later and move down. They're an ideal spot for Atlanta to move down, to move up. So I think Cleveland.
That's a good one. I'll touch on that in a minute because that's actually another question I have. But next question: the top prospect you think is most likely to slide in the draft?
Wow, that's a good one. Top prospect most likely. I'm going to say Brown, the defensive lineman, the
Right.
defensive tackle. I just think that with all the hype around the tackles and the quarterbacks and the receivers, I see him going into the middle of the round, maybe even 14, 15. He might even fall to Atlanta at 16. I can see
Yeah.
him falling.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with Tua. That's like a bold prediction. I'm not, like I said, I'm not confident or positive in that statement, but you never know. You really never know. Dwayne Haskins was like rumored to be a top 10 pick last year. He slid to 15, and Tua's a smaller quarterback. I'm really not that impressed by him. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust or anything, but if the Jets were in need of a quarterback, I don't want Tua. So with that plus the health concerns, I think there's a possibility he slides a little bit.
Yeah. So we have one on the screen actually.
Yeah.
So best player to fall to the mid late first round. You take this one.
Oh, that's my friend Kyle. Kyle, thanks for tuning in. That's a tough one. I actually didn't think about falling mid to late.
It's a tough one.
It is. It is. It is. You know what? Not confident in this either. I'm going to say Henry Ruggs. What if Ruggs is being, he's going to go top 15. I know that's 15 is the midpoint. Let's say he slides a little bit more. He's a smaller receiver. Yeah, he's that speedster. He's that Tyreek Hill type of guy, but our team's willing to really invest in a player like that with one of those earlier picks. In that case, maybe he slides down a little bit and he falls into another team's lap, or maybe a team like Philly jumps up a few spots to go grab a guy like that.
And
What do
now
you
I'm going to piggyback off your answer because you hit the nail on the head in terms of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
If Ruggs falls, this guy's going to fall too, and that's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
He's a guy that could fall toward the end of the first round. That he's a guy that I could see sliding a little bit. There's a couple of questions surrounding where he'll actually end up, but if Ruggs goes down a little bit on the draft board, that leaves Jefferson as arguably the number 2 guy on the board. So I could see him falling. If not, I say Trayvon Diggs. I think a lot of teams overhype him because of the name. I think that if C.J. Henderson goes early, it only helps him. But if Henderson falls a little bit, Diggs is definitely a guy I could see being there toward the end of the round.
Yeah, and before we jump into the next question, let's just take a moment and realize, I'm excited for this draft because this is one of the more recent drafts, in memory that I feel it could go in any direction. Aside from those first 2 picks, we don't know what's going to happen. There wasn't that same feel last year, only with the quarterbacks maybe last year, but this is with the receivers, the offensive linemen. I'm excited.
I am too. I think it's going to be fun. And one of my best friends, I talk to him every day. He texted me this morning first thing, and he said, "You know what? I am excited for 31 of the 32 picks tonight," meaning that he wasn't excited for the Jets pick.
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? I couldn't have said it better myself, my friend. Thank you for those words of wisdom as we start our day. And it's just how the Jets are. But is it my turn for a question or yours?
It is yours.
Oh, it is mine. All right. So let's see. Where do I want to go with this? Because I went with the trade down one. Who's going to be the best defensive player out of this first round? Like, career's over. Who do you think's the best one?
That's a good one. I think it's going to be Jeff Okuda. I do. I don't. I know we were on Kurt's show last night, and I mentioned defensive rookie of the year, maybe Isaiah Simmons, but it's a toss up. It's a toss up. I think everyone's hyping up Young. I feel like Okuda is going to be like different. I feel like he's going to be in Detroit if he goes to Detroit, I think he's going to be there for a long time. I have like a lot of confidence in that kid. What about you?
I echo that. I think Okuda. We saw what Young could do when he had Bosa opposite him, and we saw what he did without Bosa. And the two are very different because he drew a lot of double teams in college. How is he going to translate to the NFL? It's a toss-up. It's really a coin flip. You don't know how he's going to turn out. Okuda, I think he could be the next shutdown corner in this league, and I think that if whoever's picking the 3, or if the Lions do keep that pick, then I think that there would be no way they'd be making that pick. That's a risk to take there at 3. So I think Okuda, Simmons, it all depends on where he goes in the system, but Okuda to me is a safe bet right there.
Okay. All right, here's one. It's not so much involving the actual draft prospects. There's been a lot of rumors going on lately about actual current NFL superstars being traded. What do you think is one trade that's most likely to happen? And it's not involving, forget the draft picks. This is like, examples are like Trent Williams, Jamal Adams, guys like that. What do you think is the most likely trade?
I would say Trent Williams. As much as I want to say Adams because I think that it's inevitable they're going to trade him, I think Williams is the most likely off the chop block. And I think it could happen as early as day 2 or day 3 of the draft. Recent rumors have said that the Redskins can't get more than a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick for him. So if that's the case, I think somebody's going to jump in, especially one of those teams that are sitting there tonight and don't get that lineman. Like, let's just throw out a scenario, right? Say the Jets don't get one of those linemen and they do go receiver in some alternate universe. One of those 3rd-round picks, are you really willing to not give up one of those picks to get a guy who could be a real good lineman for you on the left side of the line and fill that void? I think that it's a price that the Jets might be willing to make.
Yeah, and I would love if the Jets did that. If the Jets forget missing out on the lineman, just go get the receiver. But if they go and grab the receiver, yeah, I would give up a few picks for Trent Williams. You solidify the left tackle position. You improve the offensive line. You give Darnold a weapon. Like, that's best case scenario walking out of this draft. The player I think most likely traded is also Trent Williams. I don't know if that happens tonight. I don't know if that happens tomorrow night or the day after. I'm not sure when it would happen. But I think Trent Williams, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I wouldn't even say it's bold. I think he goes to Cleveland. I think they find a way to make that happen. And if they make that happen within the next half hour or so, before this thing gets kicked off and Browns are on the clock, let's say they address their offensive line position. Do they move back or do they stay at 10 and take another position? That's another interesting question to think about.
Yeah, and that trade might actually be done. Think about it, because they don't have to announce it tonight, and it does have to go through physical for Williams, but that
so then they go someone else.
They could have on the back burner, and that could kind of dictate what the Browns are doing. So that's an interesting kind of dynamic that could also unfold. Yeah. Now, my question is, what first-round talent do you think is going to be good that nobody's talking about?
You said first-round talent?
It could be a talent that's been rumored to be a first-round pick. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's going to get picked in a first round tonight, but of guys who you think should be first-rounders?
So I don't know if this guy should be a first-rounder. I don't know what round he's going to go in. I think pretty highly of him. I'm going to say a sleeper in this entire draft is Jalen Hurts, and no one's talking about him. And I know he's not being looked at as like an NFL superstar, but I like him. I think he makes the throws. He's mobile if he needs to be. He's smart. He's committed. He's humble. They say he's a hard worker. He says all the right things, and I feel like if things really work out for him, if he gets put in on the right team, right organization, who knows? He could be the next Russell Wilson, late round pick, same body type. You never know, but I think he's a sleeper in the late rounds for sure.
Now I'm gonna give you two. One guy that I think should be a first round pick, and one that I know is gonna be a middle round guy. The first one is Ruiz, the center from Michigan. There's been talk about him a little bit, but they don't give him the hype that he deserves. This kid is good. Like, you watch his film. I was watching it last week, and one of those teams in the late first round or early second round are going to take him and get an absolute steal. They're going to get a guy who's going to come in right away and be a guy who could be in your line for 5 to 10 years down the road. Like, I think he's that good. In terms of looking deep into the draft, nobody's talking about this guy because of the wide receiver class, is Devin Duvernay. If you watch any Texas film, and I'm a Longhorns fan, and I will admit it, Sam Ellinger does not have the greatest arm in the world. But with him and Colin Johnson, Texas had two of the best receivers in the country all year, and for the last 2 years. Duvernay, why he's good and why he might translate well in the NFL, he's great with yards after catch. So when he gets the ball, he makes things happen. So if you're looking at a team like, say, a New Orleans Saints, you could slide him in the slot and kind of just let him do his thing. If you get him a quarterback that could sling him the ball, he's going to make plays happen. He's a playmaker. I think somebody's going to really, maybe a fourth or fifth round pick, kind of jump on this guy and really reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, you never know. It's like we talked about. Whether it's first round or late round picks, you never know. If you take a look at past drafts, these guys, they criticize some of these prospects. And a good example is Patrick Mahomes. They criticized him. I criticized them. I really wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of college because, yes, like his highlights impressed you. He has an amazing arm. He's a great athlete. But sometimes you took a look at his tape or his highlights, and he would make some throws, and you're like, dude, you cannot make that throw in the NFL. That's an interception. And look what Patrick Mahomes has done. I mean, he's the next big thing. If you want to say, not even next, he's currently the big thing. So a lot of these guys are being hyped up, and they're going to be bad. A lot of these guys are being looked at as they're not going to be good, and they end up being great. So you never know, and that's why I feel like any pick could be a good pick at the same time, unless you're the Jets. Whatever pick they do, it's not good. It really can't justify anything.
To add to that, and we have a message from Jack LeBeau. Happy draft night. Happy draft night to you as well.
What's up, Coach Jack?
You're talking about, in that retrospect, how a certain guy translates with a certain team. And that's a big thing to take into consideration, too. It's all about the fit. So you're looking at these guys tonight, and a lot of them are not going to get put into situations where they're built to succeed. And the Jets are one of them. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter. But you're sitting there, and you have to really just say to yourself, like, if you get the right situation, if you have the right chips fall in your favor, you're going to benefit from it. Patrick Mahomes benefited from it. He sat behind Alex Smith. He benefited from it. Aaron Rodgers, he sat behind Favre, benefited from it. And you mentioned a guy in Jalen Hurts. Who's to say that Green Bay or New Orleans or, heck, even Seattle decides late in the draft, let's take a chance on this guy. Let's see what we could groom out of this guy. And he sits there for a couple of years and see what he's got. It can only help.
And that's a really good point you made, because you can even talk about the current guys at the top of this draft board right now at quarterback. Joe Burrow. I've said it in other episodes. I am not a fan of him at all. Like, at all. I don't like him. So he's being put in a bad situation. Cincinnati is not a good team. They don't have a good roster. They're not a good organization. So, yeah, he'll make his millions right now. Doesn't mean his career is gonna be successful or long. You have a guy maybe like Tua, Jordan Love. What if they slide? What if Jordan Love falls right to the Patriots? That's the position you want to be in. And guess what? You know what happens? Yeah, Burrow gets the first pick in the draft, makes a lot of money. Jordan Love goes to a perfect situation, the greatest coach of all time, a good organization, and his career is going to exceed the expectations that he's been given. So that's something else I think about too.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like that too. And I can't wait till a couple of months down the road when Burrow's losing in Cincinnati and the media brings up the archive of him saying, "I've never lost in my life."
Yeah,
whole archive with him. I can't wait till that comes out, because obviously Cincinnati's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding process there for him, and we'll see how he can handle it. And we've seen how he is arrogant wise. If he starts turning the ball over and he don't have the weapons he had at LSU, it might be a little bit of a tricky situation for him in Cincinnati. It might be a short-lived stay there for Mr. Burrow.
Listen, if Burrow isn't used to losing, he better get used to it, because I feel like the L's are going to be piling in.
Unless the Jets trade up for him somehow,
Hey, you know what? Anything's possible with the Jets during the draft. We might take a quarterback.
Let's go 2 quarterback set.
We have a lot of money, right? We have a lot of money. We didn't spend much.
About
So,
25 million
but
left.
you need to save money if you're gonna have two quarterbacks on the roster. You got to pay them. So
Yeah, and Le'Veon's contract comes off the books next year because they'll cut him before they owe him any big money. So, and you don't have to pay Jamal Adams because why would you pay your best player?
yeah, well, we'll trade him for a first pick because why not? He is our first pick, but they don't realize that. But now we're gonna jump into before we wrap things up. We're gonna give a few bold predictions that we think might happen. Remember, they're bold, so they're not likely to happen, but you never know. So Nick, you wanna go? We'll alternate. You give one, I give one.
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna make a bold prediction of Burrow goes one. We don't see a quarterback off the board till six.
Okay, that's cool. That definitely could happen. Um, I'm gonna go Dolphins pass on a quarterback at 5. Go offensive lineman with the 5th overall pick. I don't know
Now,
if that's that bold, but I made this list a few days ago, and now rumors are starting to swirl that they might do that. But this was prior to that, so
now let me echo that Miami Dolphins talk. I'm gonna give you another bold one of there. Miami's got 3 first-round picks, correct?
yeah.
Okay. Here's what Miami Dolphins are gonna do. They're gonna go offensive lineman, then they're going to go either offensive lineman or wide receiver with the second pick, and if they have to, they're gonna trade back up and get Jordan Love with that third pick. I think it's all smokescreen with the quarterbacks. It was Herbert today, Tua yesterday. I just think there's a lot of smoke there, and I could see a situation where they decide, you know what, Jordan Love's the guy we want to go with, but we're going to keep it hush hush. That might be a little bit of a bold prediction, but they kind of help themselves with 2 more picks and then get the quarterback that they want later on.
Okay. Pretty similar. This is my bold prediction, and it kind of ties into the first one I said. I think Dolphins go offensive lineman with the first pick. They're sitting there at 18. They trade back up using draft capital. They'll swap that pick and a few late round picks because they have 12, I think 12 picks in this draft. And they could even grab them for next year too. And I think they trade back up to grab Tua because Tua's going to, I think Tua slides out of the top 10. So I say they go offensive line with the 5th pick. Tua slides out of the top 10, not too far. Could be 12, 13, I don't know. And I think Dolphins move back up to get their guy. And you can go with the safe bet and say they're going to go quarterback and then wait at 18 to take the 5th best lineman, right? That I would feel like you would go here and then they would drop a little bit. Or you could get the best offensive lineman and then nail your second pick by grabbing your quarterback too. And they have the draft capital to move up. So
Now, let me ask you, what team in the round of 10 to 20 or even later do you see going up for a quarterback? Now, Miami might be able to sit still
right. So
because think about it, like you look at New England, you figure that the Chargers are going to handle their quarterback situation. There's really I don't see a big question mark. Maybe Oakland, but they have Carr on their wraps for God knows how long.
so I feel like once a team realizes, and remember, these are all bold predictions. So I think if a team realizes that Tua slid out of the top 10, someone might just go take a chance on him. So in that case, Miami would just jump up as quickly as they possibly could to try to make sure they get him if they love him. We don't even know if they really want him. But now for my third bold prediction, I think a team trades up for Jordan Love. And I'm going to be very specific with this. I feel like the New Orleans Saints at 24 are going to trade up to either 13 with the Niners, 14 with the Buccaneers, or 17 with the Cowboys and go get Jordan Love. I don't know if they like him. I don't know if they dislike him, but I'm just thinking, I didn't do much research on the Saints, but I was like, you know what? Sean Payton's a good coach. Drew Brees has a year or two left. He's old. If they feel Jordan Love is not ready, he doesn't need to be. They're not throwing fresh meat to the wolves here. He could sit behind Brees. And guess what? If he is, which he's being compared to Patrick Mahomes, if he's anything like him, you're going into that offense in a year or two with Kamara at running back and Michael Thomas at receiver. So I don't think that's bad. And they don't really have too many team needs, so why wouldn't they jump up? So I'm going to say Saints jump up for Love.
Now, here's my final bold prediction, and this is going to be a little wild, so bear with me, okay? If Tua slides past 15, he will be a Green Bay Packer. I
Wow.
think that the Packers are going to trade up. Aaron Rodgers is 36 years old. I think they're going to see him slide, and they're going to take a chance because let's be real, the Packers have nothing to lose by taking him early because the history of the health issues that he's been dealing with lately. It could be a situation where they say, you know what, sit behind Rodgers, learn in our system, and then we'll go from there. I think if he falls anywhere past that 15 mark and you don't see a team kind of jump up to get him, they're going to jump up before Miami could get him, and they're going to take their guy. And I think it might be the Packers who might be a sleeper in the Tua sweepstakes.
I don't know if my friend Dan Gully is listening right now, or if he's not, I have to let him know. I'm going to see how he feels about that. See if he'd like to sitting behind Rodgers for a few years. All right, so my last
history repeating itself.
Yeah, I know it's worked them in the past, so why not? My last bold prediction. I feel like I've said it already multiple times, but I'm gonna put it out there. I think Joe Burrow's a bust. I don't know if that happens right away, but I just don't think he's going to be good. I think the situation he's going into isn't great. I mentioned before, not a good roster, not a good organization. I don't like his attitude. And because of that, I feel like he's arrogant, gives off the Ryan Leaf vibes. And I think it took him too long in college to really get things going. And I think he was on a great team. So I'm not really impressed by him personally. So I'm going to say, I think ultimately 5 years from now, we look back and say Joe Burrow was a massive bust.
I'm going to add to that sentiment, and I'm going to tell you Chase Young is going to be a bust. So not only is your first pick going to be a bust, your second pick is going to be a bust too. It's going to be one of those years where we talk about, oh, it was guaranteed those guys were going off the board. They're both going to be bust. We'll leave it at that. Now, any final thoughts before we turn it over to ABC for the NFL draft?
I mean, I'm really excited. I hope everyone's just excited as us. I feel like if you're a big football fan, whether you're a Giant fan or you just like the league, to watch the league as a whole, you should be just as excited as we are. I could say based on this podcast alone, we sound like two crazy Jets fans. We're saying a lot of things that probably aren't going to happen, but you never know what happens in the NFL draft. So it's always exciting to make, weird and bold predictions. And as a Jets fan, we'll enjoy the draft as a whole. Like someone mentioned earlier, there's going to be that one pick we're upset about, and unfortunately, it's going to be our team making it. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys are, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I got to echo that again. Thank you for tuning in to everybody. We enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. The thing that I'm excited about is the 31 picks around the Jets. I'm hoping the Jets get it right. I'm giving them my faith here that they do the right thing. But just from past history, I'm 27 years old, so I haven't seen it yet. I'm hoping they get it right, and I hope Joe Douglas is the guy that helps turn things around. But there's a lot of fun. We had some bold predictions on here. It'll be fun to recap this after we get this done. The next 3 days, the NFL draft will be taking over the airwaves. There'll be a lot of talk, and we're going to come back with a little bit of a recap show, kind of talk about the teams we liked, what they did, teams we don't like. We'll probably rip on the Jets and Giants a little bit. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we hope that you enjoy the NFL draft. Interact with us on social media throughout the draft. Find us on Facebook, Let's Debate Podcasts. Hit us up on Twitter at Let's Debate Pod. Let us know your reactions, especially when the Jets and Giants do eventually make their picks tonight. We don't want to say 4-11 because obviously anything can happen. But until we talk next time, that's Kyle Delahanty. I'm Nick Delahanty, and this is the Let's Debate Podcast. And we'll talk to you real soon. Enjoy the NFL draft. And as always, stay safe and healthy during these trying times. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Enjoy, guys. See you next week.